So my boyfriend and I moved in together, and everything's been great.
Rather than getting into a protracted discussion, I just figured I'd make a video. This guy says, living together before marriage decreases your chances of a lifelong relationship. That's true at like the barest surface level, but what's actually going on here is a little bit more complex. Cohabitation is living together before marriage or in place of marriage. You can see in the past, for 18 to 24-year-olds, that it was very, very rare, but then it crept up, and today it's actually more common than it is to live with a spouse. The data looks a little bit different for 25 to 34-year-olds. You can see that the data angles in the same direction, but certainly it's still more common to live with a spouse. Still, about 2/3 of women cohabit, whether it's in place of marriage or whether it's before marriage. Early research looking at relationships from the late 70s and early 80s found that women who cohabit before marriage are more likely to get divorced than women who don't cohabit before marriage. However, ideals have shifted, norms have changed about cohabitation, and most students I talk to today insist upon cohabitation and think that that's a way of preventing bad relationships, and think of it more as a trial run, as it says below. However, the data still doesn't support that. Although it's not as big of a risk of divorce as it has been in the past, still cohabiting before marriage increases the likelihood of divorce by about 30%. But those are only raw statistics, and they're not causal. It's not like social psychologists rounded up a bunch of young people and said, okay, half of you have to get married. The other half, you have to live together before you get married, and then they track divorce rates over the next 10 years. They can't do that experimentally, right? Instead, people self-select whether to cohabit or not cohabit before marriage. And certainly there might be significant differences between the type of people who choose to cohabit and the type of people who choose not to cohabit, correct? People who choose not to cohabit usually do so for cultural or religious, for moral reasons. They also are likely to look at the institution of marriage and the act of divorce differently than people who choose to cohabit. So while we can say that the two things are related, we can't say that cohabitation causes an increase in the likelihood of divorce. When we're talking about marriage here, it's almost we're talking about apples and oranges. As always, correlation doesn't equal causation. I'd also question his implied assumption that divorce is a universal bad. But anyhow, there are much stronger predictors of divorce for women, including getting married under the age of 23, being of lower socioeconomic status, not having a college degree. These all are stronger predictors than cohabitation.